that comes. What do we have to do?
But that is largely a product of the fact that these radicalized groups, these apocalyptic jihadist groups, have the capability and the territory from which to radicalize and attract fighters to their cause. And I want to go back to the first question you asked, because this is the most important decision that a president will make, and that is engaging America in an armed conflict. And I want to apply the criteria that I would hold to the actual specific situation before us now in the Middle East. The first is it has to be in your clear national interest. In the case of ISIS, I don't think there's any debate about that. ISIS poses a threat to the United States. It is a real threat. It's not just a threat halfway around the world. They actively seek to attack us here at home, both by radicalizing homegrown violent extremists, meaning people that never leave the United States. They just became radicalized online and joined their cause, but also by seeking to enter people into this country to carry out these attacks. They pose a threat to the US, to Canada. They already pose a real threat, as we were reminded last week, in Europe. So it must be in our clear national interest. And clearly the conflict with ISIS, the war on ISIS, fits that criteria. The second is you engage with a clear objective, and that objective must be to win. We must define what victory is, and we must give our military the resources to win. That is not happening now.
You think Obama doesn't want to win? I want to be clear. You think Barack Obama doesn't want to win?
He hasn't even defined what victory means. And the consequence of it is you see it now in the airstrikes that we're conducting. They have not targeted the right places with the right frequency. There has been evidence of, in fact, in many instances, warning before they even strike. They have been issuing warnings on the ground that we're about to strike.
Because the president is doing this or because the Pentagon is doing this?
Well, it's under the president's orders. He's the commander-in-chief. I mean, none of these issues happen on their own. These are decisions that the president makes under his directive. But it goes back to the point. You have to have a clear objective, and it can't be some symbolic strike. It has to be, we are here, here's what victory looks like, and we are going to provide you the resources you need to win. In the case of this specific challenge that we now face, the only way to defeat ISIS, ultimately, must involve a ground force made up primarily of Sunni Arab fighters that reject them ideologically and defeat them militarily. That must be the bulk of the ground force. We will need to provide increased air support, increased special operators, logistical support, intelligence support. But if they, as Rick just said, if they are not defeated by Sunnis themselves, it will lead to a second, either a sectarian conflict or another successor group to ISIS. The third is you must bring your people along with you. You must have the support of the United States and of the people of the United States. And that's why it's so critical that the president uses the pulpit of the presidency to explain to the American people the consequences, what's at stake, what are our choices, and why he's chosen this course of action. And last but not least, it has to be as the last resort. In essence, we have tried everything else. In the case of ISIS, there is nothing else to try. This is a radical jihadist group.
So
they do not have a diplomatic corps.
Why does the president not do this?
Well, he's a bad president. I mean, the deeper issue at play is twofold. Number one, the president refuses to acknowledge for what this is. This is a civilizational struggle between those of us that believe in freedom and liberty and radical jihadists that do not. They don't hate us because they're unemployed. They don't hate us because they're disgruntled. They hate us because in America, women drive cars. They hate us because my daughters go to school, because little girls in America go to schools. They hate us, and either they win or we win. There is no middle ground with them. And so these are the things that need to be put in place. And the second problem this president has, he ran on the promise of disentangling us from all of these conflicts in the Middle East. Well, guess what? We're entangled. We can ignore these radical jihadists, but they will not ignore us. We either defeat them now, or they will grow harder to defeat, they will grow larger, they will grow more powerful, and they will pose a threat even larger than the one they pose today.